the conductor of a symphony orchestra, the head coach of an NFL football team, and a pilot trying to land a jet on an aircraft carrier all have three things in common. And if they don't get these three things right in the right sequence, their efforts might end in a disappointing performance, a team losing a game, or catastrophe and death. My name is Daniel Hermann, and this is Class 2, Lesson 2 of the Clinical Operations Management Program. And this lesson will deal with the three essential steps of every management process. No matter what task you're working on and what you're managing or where you are in the management hierarchy, three things must happen. These three things must be done in the right sequence, and they must be done completely and be done correctly. If any of the steps are done poorly or done incompletely, the project will fail, the task will fail. The three things that must be done in every management process are, first of all, you have to learn what should be done. Second, you have to find out what is being done. And third, you have to take action to correct any discrepancy between steps 1 and 2. So this is the syllabus of the whole Clinical Operations Management Program. The lessons in highlighted in yellow have been completed already. So all of the Class 1 is done. And right now we're on Class 2, and we're on Lesson 2 of Class 2. And just to give you a heads up, these are the classes that I expect to be doing in the future. Class 3 will be managing a clinops team, and we're going to be doing learning the study, learning your sites, monitoring visits, and then lagniappe. So I consider this whole clinops management program a project. And there are different ways of doing project management, and one of them is called Agile, which means you continually improve it as you go along, come up with different goals and processes. So in that vein, my plan for the classes is, as you see here, but that might change. But anyway, right now we are in Class 2, Lesson 2. And as a reminder, if you are employed by a sponsor or a CRO, please read and understand ICH E6 R3 Section 3.11.4 or Section 5.18.4 of R2. Or if you are employed by an investigator, please read and understand ICH E6 R3 Section 2 or Section 4 of R2. I want to give you a quick bio so that way you know my background and you'll understand that I have walked the talk. First of all, for my clinical operations experience, I started out as a clinical coordinator for 3 urology studies. After that, I was a clinical research associate. I did that for, I'm going to say over 15 years, but I think it's quite a bit more than that. Most of my experience has been also in oncology, about 90% solid tumor and 10% blood tumors. I had a smattering of other kinds of studies, pediatric, pulmonary, but most of my experience is in oncology. And probably 40% of it is phase 1, 40% phase 3, Prior to going into clinical research, I had some management experience. After I got out of college, I was a floor manager of a full-service Mexican restaurant. Then I was a general manager of a plastics manufacturing, and then about 8 years as a naval officer, line manager. For certification, I currently have Advanced Clinical Research Project Manager, and historically, I had CCRA certification from 2007 to 2009. If you want a complete, detailed history of my clinical operations, I record a video. It's on YouTube. This is the name of it, and the link to it is down here. Regarding this YouTube video, I don't care if you like or subscribe. I don't care if you share it, and I don't care if you send Rorschach diagrams as Christmas cards. What I do care is that you listen to the content and think of ways that you can improve your clinical research practice. So step one of the management process is to find out what should be done. To do that, you have two groups of documents. The first group is company documents, and that would include all of the SOPs that you have to learn during your onboarding period. The second group of documents has to do with your study itself. That would include the protocol, all of the clinical documents that support the protocol, and that would be the lab manual, the pharmacy manual, the imaging manual, and things like that, as well as all of the plans that accompany that study. So the plans would include the project management plan, the monitoring plan, the enrollment plan, the communication plan, the data management plan, the medical monitoring plan, the safety plan, and any other document that would be in the study documents folder of your study. There's a lot there. Regarding your company's SOPs, typically the first week of your employment will be almost exclusively SOP learning. So that's a great opportunity for you to learn them. There's some SOPs that probably don't apply to you or your role at all, and you can go over those quickly. There's some that apply to your role rather tangentially, that the SOP itself does not directly relate to your AO, but has some sort of impact on it. And the third type of SOP is one that directly affects your role. For that third type, I'm thinking about your company's SOP regarding the finalization of trip reports. That's something you need to know very well. So I kind of break out the learning requirements into two different spheres. One is intimate learning, and one is reference learning. Some of the things you learn, you have to know intimately. And by that, I mean that you should know the information without having to refer to the SOP. An example is trip finalization SOP. You should not have to refer to that to know what the standards are. The other kind of SOP doesn't directly relate to your role, but you should know about it. At least you should know about the existence of the SOP. I'm thinking an example that happened in my career, that I had a site that had a lot of problems, and the problems were significant. And there were so many of them that I thought that I should initiate a quality event. And I had just gone through training, and I was familiar with the SOP, but I didn't know the details. So I went and got the SOP, I read the SOP, I found out what constitutes a quality event, and I worked it up. So that's an example of being familiar with an SOP, but not being intimate with it. So when you go through your SOP training, which is the first week, you have a low intensity tempo. You should be attentive for the SOPs that apply to you directly and those that apply tangentially. The second group of documents that you're responsible for are the study-related documents. And like I said earlier, those would include the protocol, the clinical supporting documents, like the lab manual, and all of the plans that accompany that study. There is a lot to learn. During the first week on board, you're going to be doing SOP training. After that, you're going to be assigned a study, and then you're going to be responsible for learning and understanding and knowing all of these study plans and documents. And in that situation, the op tempo changes considerably. That you have to learn and you have to do. The flag went up and you have to do the job. Obviously, doing the job is the most important thing, but during the first 2 weeks, not only are you going to have to do the job the best you can, you're going to have to learn all those study documents. So what that means is you're going to have to work hard for the first couple weeks. You must learn those documents. You must be intimate with all those documents. You need to be able to act on those documents without referring to them. So not only are you going to have to do your job, you're going to have to learn those documents, so you're going to have to work hard. Expect to do a lot of 10 and 12-hour days. You just have to suck it up and do it. The payoff is just immense. If you don't do it, you will always be behind the power curve. You'll always wonder what should be going on here. And when the race is going on, that's not the time to be reading reference documents. You need to be in the fight. So you need to bust ass the first couple weeks. When I grew up, I had a friend whose father had a sailboat, and I went out with that family several times for what they called family night racing, which is basically a cocktail party on a sailboat. It was a lot of fun. The guy who owned the boat said when I first got there, apparently it was an overcast day, he said, it's easier to stay dry than it is to get dry. So the time to put a raincoat on is not after it started raining. And the same kind of thought process applies to learning your study documents. It's easier to learn them and know them ahead of time, so that way you're prepared for anything that comes up, as opposed to dragging your feet, not knowing the documents too well. Then when a problem does come up, you have to address the problem as well as find out what the reference document says. So bust ass the first couple weeks. Step 2 of the management process is to find out what's going on out there. That is a completely different set of skills than step 1. This is really an assessment step. The good thing is that you have a lot of references to find out what's going on out there. You can either run reports yourself or have someone run reports for you. And depending on what kind of vendors you have or what kinds of systems you're using, there are probably lots of reports that can be run to help you find out what's going on out there. In EDC, you can run a lot of reports about how many CRF pages need to be SDV'd, how many of them needs to be closed, how many queries there are out there, how many queries there are that have been responded to by the staff but need to be closed by the CRA. One of my favorites a report in EDC are listings. I've worked with the heavy hitters. They all have this functionality. And basically, you can run a report that will list all of the data entered for every data point, every page in the CRF. I'll get to this later on, but when I prepare for a visit, I run listings on medical history, on adverse events, on dosing. I run them on consenting and eligibility. These help out a lot, especially when I go to prepare for an interim monitoring visit. So anyway, that's EDC. CTMS is another one. There's a lot of stuff in it that's very helpful. Another one is the IP management software. You can run reports on what a site's inventory is, what shipments have been made, what shipments have been signed for. Another one is regulatory. I've worked with a product called Vault that I found is just extraordinarily wonderful. And once you learn how to do it, you can run reports for all the discrepant documents out there, which is a wonderful way to prepare for a monitoring visit. So the second step is to find out what's going on there. Those are the objective hard sources. Another thing you can do is attend meetings and listen and find out what's going on. You can read and try to interpret monitoring visit reports. Is the monitor struggling? Is the site struggling? Is the PI missing in action? Is the site having problems with recruitment and they seem to be impervious to any kind of guidance that you might provide to them? Another good one is the qualitative side of this whole world. You just talk to people. I like the idea of using the chain of command all the time. So if I'm a CTM, if I want to know something about the site, I'm going to call the CRA and just say, what kind of vibes are you getting there? Why are you having these problems? What have you done? What challenges are you having? Do you see any optimism in their recruiting problem? You know, just talk to people. My experience in life is the closer a person is to the actual problem, the more that person knows about the problem and probably has an idea about a solution. So if you're the project manager and you want to know something, ask the CRA, or rightfully, ask the CTM to ask the CRA. But don't, if you're a PM, don't go to the CTM to get information about the site, because that is not the most proximate source. So the third step in the management process is to take action to correct any discrepancies between step 1 and step 2. If you have done a good job with step 2, step 3 should be a piece of cake. The solution should jump out at you with very little thought and deliberation. If you know what should be done and you know what's being done, the solution is kind of obvious. So, if you are a manager, you must take action. That's what you do. You do an assessment and you take action and you know, repeat, but you must take action. So now I want to give you just a couple quick examples of things that I've experienced in my career as illustrations of what happens when managers do not do steps 1, 2, and 3. In summary, this lesson has reviewed the 3 essential steps of all management processes. And this lesson is part of Class 2, which is the basics of all management. The 3 steps of all management are, first of all, to learn what should be happening, And in the clinical operations field, that covers two general areas. One, your organization's SOPs. And in the clinical operations field, the two kinds of documents that you need to have and understand are, first of all, the protocol and all of the accompanying clinical guidelines, like pharmacy guidelines, lab guidelines, imaging guidelines, as well as all the study plans. You have to be intimate with all of those documents. So the second step is to find out what is happening. And to do that, the sources are these. You have electronic sources, meaning all the things you can extract out of your vendor's portals. And the second source is human sources, subjective sources. So you attend the meetings, you listen, you ask questions. Depending on your level and chain of command, either you can call the CRA and ask questions, or it's called the CTM. And then the third step is to fix any discrepancies between steps 1 and steps 1 and 2. If you know step 1, if you've done a thorough assessment at step 2, step 3 should be very easy. The problem should leap out at you, and the solution should be self-explanatory. So that's what we covered in today's lesson. The next lesson will be Class 2, Lesson 3, and that will cover leadership.